What is up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Career Mode. Today we're tackling the German Grand Prix. In case you missed it as well, this is our second race now for Mercedes. In the previous episode, it was our first race, and that one turned out to be an absolute disaster. So heading into this race, the German Grand Prix around Hockenheim, things can only improve, and I'm looking to impress the team at their home race, essentially. So resource points, still nothing in the way that we can really do to upgrade the car significantly. I'm waiting for that engine upgrade before we can head to Spa. So fingers crossed we can get very, very close to upgrading the car before we get to the Belgian Grand Prix. So practice went very, very smoothly. We managed to smash all the objectives, all in practice one. We pretty much had to because the rest of the weekend was scheduled to be raining. So I got everything out of the way very early on. The pace was very solid as well. 4th place overall. And yeah, it all looks very, very promising heading into qualifying.
Welcome to Germany for today's qualifying session at the famous Hockenheim ring. The pit lane lights will turn green in the next minute or two to signify the start of qualifying.
We don't think you'll have any trouble getting into the next session, so don't push too hard.
So here we are then for qualifying for the German Grand Prix. I always prefer this track over the Nürburgring. I just feel like it suits my driving style a little bit more. So yeah, we'll see how we go. We've gone for a low downforce setup for this track. That's actually an area in the Mercedes where we're actually lacking in terms of upgrades. It's the straight line speed. So we're going to make up for that by running 5 full wings over the course of this weekend. So first lap in qualifying 1, 22nd place on a set of soft compound tyres. I thought maybe my pace was good enough to get myself out of qualifying 1. Turns out it wasn't the case. I was just a couple of tenths shy on my first lap, pushed on for a second lap, ran wide of the hairpin, and that was all she wrote for that set of soft compound tyres. So with only 2 minutes left to go in the session, I had to use another set of tyres, and this time the Super Softs, which is I don't know, a little bit annoying. It puts me on the back foot heading into qualifying 2 and 3. But the checkered flag is out. We've got Jolyon Palmer right in front of us, giving us a little bit of slipstream in the first sector, but unfortunately giving us dirty air in the 3rd sector, and we're actually going to have to overtake him here up the inside into the stadium section. Cost us, I don't know, about a tenth or two, having to run a compromised line into that corner. But we are well over a second up on our previous best, so surely, with the field so close on this grid, we should be able to smash it here. 6th place at the end of qualifying 1. And yeah, that's a real saviour. I was really, really happy to get that lap in and progress to the next part of qualifying. So, considering we're down on tyres, and considering I haven't actually done this before, there's this thing called a tyre wear glitch. And I want to test it out, starting on a harder compound for the Grand Prix. So, what I'm going to try and do in this session is actually not make it into qualifying 3. So what I've done is I've used a used set of super soft tyres, and I've ran in standard revs in an effort to just be outside the top 10, which we've managed to do, 12th place, and that's pretty much target achieved for the session with only 2 minutes left to go. I did have the opportunity to go out again and better my time, but I thought no, 12th place is fairly close to the mark, and I will definitely take that. It is a bit of a risk though, being out-qualified by my teammate, losing points to him, like in terms of my driver standing within the team, and also giving up points in the rivalry to Nico Hülkenberg. But I'm going to sacrifice that to potentially get myself a better race and potentially do one less stop versus some of the leaders in an effort to potentially win this race with a pretty out there strategy. I know it's very easy to overtake around this track. We've got a low downforce setup, so I'm going to really back myself to try and win this race with an out there strategy. So yeah, that's all that's left to be said. It's time now for the German Grand Prix.
There's nowhere at all I'd rather be today than here at Hockenheim for the German Grand Prix. We have an incredibly competitive field this year, which means we should be in for a treat. And judging by the sea of people filling the grandstands, there's a fair-sized chunk of Germany that agrees with me. Well then, after an exciting qualifying session yesterday, let's take a look at how the cars line up. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position.
So you're telling me this car could have got pole?
Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
I don't believe that. This car, this Mercedes that was 4th best on the grid, could have got pole position. I could have got pole position. Lewis Hamilton went ahead, stormed qualifying, and absolutely mugged it in the third part of quali. I don't know what happened to the Red Bulls, whether they qualified on the softs for the final part, but yeah, that is very, very interesting. Here we are for the start of the German Grand Prix. In a way, it is encouraging to know that this car really does have the pace in this Grand Prix. 5 red lights, and away we go for this German Grand Prix. Starting on the soft compound tyres, let's see what we can do up against some of the leaders. Heading into turn 1, we're going up the inside of Gutierrez. Felipe Massa has spun off the inside of the track there, probably contact with Sergio Perez. And then, yeah, we made contact with Carlos Sainz. Thankfully enough, our front wing is still intact. So, first sector of this race already done. We've moved into 9th place. One overtake, one free position from Felipe Massa. Up the inside we go, into the hairpin. A late lunge on Carlos Sainz, and we just give him enough room to squeeze through there. And that's us into 8th place.
Lewis is in first position. P1.
So, an update from the engineer. The teammate is still in first place, running away with this race. Potentially not running away with this race, because we know the Red Bulls are damn quick. And maybe he can do a job for us, Lewis Hamilton, by holding them up and keeping them within a reasonable distance. Lap 4 now, we're going up the inside of both the Force Indias. We got Sergio Perez on the exit of turn 1, and then we take Hulkenberg in the subsequent corner. So from here on in, you're going to see our race really come into fruition here as we're running on the soft compound tyres. The guys on the super softs are either going to start, you know, falling away in terms of lap time, or they're going to be pitting in like my teammate is right now. So Lewis moves into 3rd place, but as I say that, he's actually moved into 2nd as he overtakes Jenson Button, who still hasn't made a stop like I have in this German Grand Prix. It's worth noting that the engineer told me there was 10 minutes until light rain as we were on the formation lap. So it's very, very close to the point where we might see rain in the next couple of laps, and so this might potentially play into my strategy and allow me to have one less pit stop versus some of the guys around me. You can see Lewis just very, very quick on the super soft tyres. He's already made up the difference of a pit stop to now overtake me for the lead of the German Grand Prix. But I'm not quite done yet. I'm still trying to stay in front of Lewis just in case the rain comes down in the next couple of minutes, because it's going to be crucial to be the first Mercedes to dive into the pits and change onto a set of intermediate tyres. If you get caught up behind your teammate, double stacking in the pit lane, you can lose at least 10 seconds, so it's really worth a lot of time. It can ruin your race.
We're still happy that we're on the right tyres at the moment.
Okay, so the engineer just keeping us updated on the weather. He still says we're on the right tyres at the moment. It has been raining since lap 9. You can't really see it on the screen, but it is still spitting lightly. It's been a very slow transition to rain, it must be said. Lewis goes for a dive into turn 2. We're going to go slow in, fast out, take a nice and wide sweeping line onto the straight here, and this should help us in terms of straight line speed. DRS and slipstream, rich revs to boot as well, and we saw past our teammate Lewis Hamilton once again. Hopefully Jenson Button can get involved and potentially overtake him. Lewis gets very, very close to my rear diffuser there, and we'll have to see that on the replay. Here's us going for the move for the lead of the German Grand Prix once again. You can see there's actually a Red Bull in the background there, so he's probably going to add to the battles in this race. Yeah, Lewis got very, very close. I think he might have outbraked himself heading into that apex there, but we carry on to lap 12. The rain is very, very close. It's almost there. It's almost the crossover point to intermediate tyres. We lock up into the hairpin, and it's almost 3 wide between the 3 of us, as Daniel Ricciardo is now getting involved with Lewis Hamilton. The engineer has suggested to switch to intermediate tyres at the end of this lap, but it's just not wet enough yet. My tyres are fading away. The guys behind me are putting on so much pressure. I've been on these soft compound tyres since lap 1, and these guys have super soft tyres and soft tyres respectively. Now, they only fitted on a couple of laps ago. Ricciardo goes for a dive up the inside into turn 1, shoves Lewis out to dry, and that's him into P2. Lap 14 now, and you can see the rain is almost here, but my tyres are at 85%, and I've just been losing so much time over the last few laps. I thought, this is it, I've got to come in. I can't stay out any longer, I'm going to get a puncture, but it just wasn't wet enough yet, so I was really caught in that awkward phase between dry and wets, and I opted for the dry tyres, super soft tyres, but I think immediately after I put on these tyres, I realised I made a pretty big mistake, because the very next lap, it went to pretty much ideal conditions for intermediate tyres. The rain just stayed away for long enough to make me think that maybe the rain wasn't going to stay and maybe it was going to go back to dry conditions, because on the race strategy it did say that rain was scheduled for the end of the race, not at the start of the race in stint 2, but it's come much earlier, and so has Lewis Hamilton into the pits for a set of intermediate tyres. Ricciardo has dived in as well, so we've been caught out here. We have to come in again and put on the intermediate tyres. It's put us a pit stop down, and all that advantage we gained by starting on the soft compound tyres has been negated by the fact that the rain just took too long to get here. Maybe I could have pitted onto intermediate tyres when I came in, you know, as I did, but I might have lost 5 or 10 seconds because the rain just wasn't heavy enough on that first lap. But what can you do? We've got to carry on here. It's lap 18, halfway through this race, and we're trying to chase down Kvyat and also Jenson Button, who we've been battling away with in this Grand Prix. Jenson kind of runs wide there and slows up Kvyat. That's 2 positions for me into P6. Sergio Perez comes into the pits and makes that P5 for us, which is a pretty nice recovery considering we made that extra pit stop compared to the leaders when we were waiting for that switch to intermediate tyres. As I was saying that, the engineer was saying we might be switching to wet weather tyres very soon, which is pretty unprecedented because we're on the pre-race strategy. There was only a forecast for light rain in this Grand Prix, so another curveball to be thrown at us potentially for the dying laps of this German Grand Prix. Into the hairpin we go. Sergio Perez tries to overtake me up the inside there. We put it up into rich revs, get better traction, and that's all she wrote in terms of that overtake. The very next lap, Sergio Perez is back at it again with a damaged side pod up the inside. It's almost going to be 3 wide into the hairpin here with Raikkonen going round the outside of both of us. There's a light touch with Raikkonen, a bit of a touch with Perez, and Raikkonen goes out around the outside of both of us there. Fantastic move considering he had absolutely no space. We may need to have a look at that actually, because Raikkonen might have actually pulled off an illegal overtake. Into the hairpin, light contact with Raikkonen as we locked up the inside fronts, and then we turned in. Perez kind of stuffed up the exit of that corner and we touched him on the outside, and then we all came together on the exit of turn, I don't know what turn that is, but Raikkonen goes around the outside just within the limits of the track, and he takes P4 in this Grand Prix. Fantastic move from Raikkonen. It's been a long time since I've seen a move like that performed by the AI. Last lap of the Grand Prix now, Raikkonen has absolutely bolted away. My pace on the intermediate tyres hasn't been that great. I've stayed out even longer than the guys around me who have recently put on a new set of intermediate tyres. So throughout the entirety of this race, I've been opting to go with less stops, and it's really made things tricky in trying to hold on to positions. Up the inside, we've locked up. We're going sideways into the hairpin, and that's a sideways overtake into Perez. How did that work? Honestly, don't know how that worked. There was contact on the way into the braking zone. Somehow we saved that. And then this was like Max Verstappen style. We lost the back end there as we just tried to turn in, tried to avoid a crash with Sergio Perez. And in the effort of doing that, we actually made an overtake work there. So a bit of contact with Perez there. It didn't really affect his momentum too much. We shoved him wide a little bit, but I think the same thing would have really happened there. So here's a slow motion replay of that sideways. Absolutely no grip. Somehow that was faster than actually slowing down the car with the brakes anyway. But we carry on, and that is P5 in the books for us. And here's the replay at full speed, contact with Perez. Again, I don't know how I saved that on the way into the braking zone, and then this was just ridiculous. The fact that we pulled off a move there. I don't know if this is legal or not, but I'm going to push on and carry on as if it is. Daniel Ricciardo has won the German Grand Prix, so it wasn't my teammate in the end to go on and win it. The Red Bulls still have way too much pace. Even if you have a track position advantage, there is still so much more that needs to be done in order to topple the Red Bulls. They are simply bulletproof at this point of this career mode series. But coming through the final couple of corners, this is going to be our first decent result for Mercedes. It's going to be 5th place and 10 points for the championship. Solid round at our home race.
Can't complain about that one. That was an excellent drive.
So here come our winning drivers today, and what a race it was. There's been a big push at the factory lately to get these cars ready, and we can see the fruits of that labour today as Red Bull lift the winner's trophy.
So there we go, guys. That has been the German Grand Prix. Daniel Ricciardo in the end has made it a Red Bull 1-2. Unfortunately, Lewis Hamilton, the advantage he had in the race, started on pole position, had the track position heading into the intermediate period of the race, but the pace of the Red Bulls really came through on the end. In terms of my race, it was an interesting one. I decided to not make it into Q3, started on the softs, just missed out on the optimal strategy of switching onto the intermediate tyres from the softs, but even if I did qualify, you know, on the super softs, being on the same strategy as Hamilton, maybe the same thing would have happened. The Red Bulls are just that quick. We need to bridge that gap in terms of performance in order to be competitive with those guys. Driver standings, we're still sitting 6th place. We pulled away from the guys behind us. Lewis Hamilton moved up a position as well, so good to see that he's finding his form at this stage of the championship. Constructors, nothing has changed for any of the runners in this championship. And resource points, we scored a few there. We have almost 900 now, only 200 away from the 1100 resource points we need to upgrade the engine for the next race. In terms of my rivalry, we've just edged out Nico Hülkenberg, and that is really good to see. I don't win rivalries all too much, so that was a welcome change. Driver position, it was looking pretty dire there after the terrible race we had in the last episode, and then the sacrifice we made in qualifying really hampered that, but we made a nice recovery with our finishing position in that race. So yeah, that's been this race, guys. The German Grand Prix, pretty interesting one. The sideways overtake, the out there strategy, a bit of rain, a bit of weather, and overall a pretty good episode. Hopefully you guys did enjoy it. Make sure you leave a like if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to see plenty more F1 2016 videos. The next race will be the Belgian Grand Prix. No engine upgrade for that race, but it will be coming in time for Monza. So maybe we could get a race win there if we play our cards right. So yeah, that's it for me for today. I'm going to stop rambling now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Yeah, I think I said subscribe. If you haven't, subscribe. And I'll see you guys for a brand new video very soon.